A little bit about Hohokam trade relations. The Hohokam were far from being isolated. We already talked about how there was trade with various cultures in Mesoamerica, but we also have trade going on to the north and to the west. And so you have the Hohokam trading with peoples in California, okay, in Baja California, and in the south and southern California, modern day Southern California. And so one of the big trade items coming from California was shells, right? So, coming from the coast. And so those shells would be traded to Hohokam people, and they would make bracelets out of them and then trade those for other goods. There was also trade connections with the Hohokam and Chaco Canyon, which we were talking about earlier, the ancestral Pueblo peoples, right? And so you have trade going on there. The ancestral Pueblo, they had turquoise. That's why I have a picture of turquoise here. They were mining for that turquoise, and they were trading that with the Hohokam, as well as with peoples in Mesoamerica. And the Hohokam also traded directly with Mesoamerica, as I mentioned earlier. And one of the spots where that trade would be conducted was a central point or a transfer point before you get to the main civilizations in the Valley of Mexico. And that transfer point was known as Chalchihuites. Chalchihuites, this is a location where goods coming from the southwest would make their way, and then from there be dispersed to the various civilizations in the Valley of Mexico. And this goes all the way back to the time period of Teotihuacan, right? And so you have Teotihuacan getting access to this turquoise, which most likely was coming from New Mexico, from the ancestral Pueblo. But the Hohokam also are involved in this trade network as well as time goes on. So Chalchihuites is one of these transfer points, very important because it's connecting Mesoamerica and the civilizations of Mesoamerica to the southwest. Okay, and so this is the Cerrillos turquoise that you have coming from the southwest. It's a big product. It's a major product. It's one of the main things that was in demand in Mesoamerica, and that's why you see that connection there in that trade. Some pretty elaborate turquoise masks were made in Mesoamerica, and that's a lot of that turquoise is coming from the southwest. Okay, now one last thing about the trade relationships between the Hohokam and Mesoamerica. Scholars have pretty much come to the conclusion that it is very unlikely that the civilizations, the powerful civilizations of Mesoamerica, had any type of political domination or control over the Hohokam or other peoples in the southwest. Okay, so this trade relationship was most likely not a coerced relationship where the Mesoamerican civilizations controlled and forced the people of the southwest to trade with them. It was most likely a mutually beneficial trade relationship for both parties, and that's why the trade was conducted. Okay, so they were not coerced. The people of the southwest were not coerced into trading with the powerful civilizations of Mesoamerica. And finally, the Hohokam civilization will also go into decline a couple hundred years after the ancestral Pueblo had already went into decline. And so by the year 1450, you're going to see the Hohokam centers be abandoned, right? They're going to leave their population centers and move to smaller villages, right? They don't disappear, but they just move to smaller villages. And their aspects of their culture will change because of this. Okay, so you're going to see a decline of the culture there amongst the Hohokam. There's several reasons for this. It's possible that it has to do with problems with their irrigation systems, which was the center of their civilization. Problems such as waterlogging, where their fields may have been saturated with too much water, and so the crops wouldn't grow. Or it could have been a problem with too much salt concentration in their agricultural fields, and so those were possibly some problems that led to the downfall of their civilization. Also, the interruption of trade with partners such as the ancestral Pueblo probably played a major role in the breakdown of the Hohokam civilization. Okay, so when the ancestral Pueblo civilization went into decline, and they were producing, their goods, such as the Cerrillos turquoise, you're eventually going to see that trade get broken off with peoples like the Hohokam, and that interruption of trade likely led to the decline of the Hohokam civilization.